Hello, this is Shay from Fool on a Journey, and I wanted to do a review today about one of the few fiction books that are out there that really rotate completely around tarot. This is the Castle of Crossed Destinies by, I'm going to butcher this name, I'm so sorry, Italo Calvino. He's Italian. I am very much not Italian, so hopefully that was close to what his name actually is. The premise of the book is that it is set up in this little fairy tale world where all of these people are at a castle. It's two different parts. You've got the Castle of Crossed Destinies, where everyone's in the castle, and they cannot speak. And so because they can't talk, they have a deck of tarot cards, and they line up the tarot cards to tell their individual stories, which is pretty cool. I was really into the premise. And then the second part is the Tavern of Crossed Destinies, which is sort of the same. It actually uses a different deck. It's more of a Marseille, or what you're used to seeing as a Marseille in the second part. The stories are pretty basic. They're real typical kind of fables and the general stories that you know. As far as the stories themselves are concerned, beyond just how cool it is that, there's tarot on every page, they're not anything that's some great, amazing story you've never heard before. Some places got a little bit dry, and honestly, kind of what kept me going was that I was super into, the tarot. And then you get to pages like this where you can see, this is the story of this person, this is the story of this person, this is this person's story, this is this person's story, which was amazing. The part where he tells his tale at the end honestly got a little confusing for me because it sort of lost the general train of the way that everything else was going. It went a little crazy. But I still very much enjoyed it. But let me tell you, as far as the general first impression, when I started reading this book, I just picked it up from the beginning and started reading. I thought he could not read tarot, and then he just thought this was a cool idea. Because in his story, this hanged man is a man hanging in a tree. And it goes on from that. This is a woman pouring water. This is a fountain in the woods. Everything, it's what do you see on the card, that's literally what's going on. I think that was the Ten of Wands, and it was woods. Literally what's in the picture is exactly what's happening. So I kind of thought he didn't really know how to read tarot, and that was why there was such a literal approach. In the note at the end, you find out that's not the case at all, which, I'll be real honest, the whole of this book was worth it for me to read his note at the end. That was incredibly fascinating. He talks about, in that note, he talks about how you don't know what any of those cards meant. There is no way to know what anyone thought any of those cards meant. There is no way to know, beyond what we think of as the general standard meaning for the Two of Pentacles. Someone made that up. That wasn't the original person who drew the Two of Pentacles. That we don't know that's what they meant. We have no idea. In some cases, people generally assume that's not what they meant, and it really was just a card game, and the idea that it had any kind of meaning is totally crazy. So he talks about really looking at what we think the cards mean and throwing it out and just taking literally what's on the page. And once I kind of knew where he was coming from, I had a totally new appreciation for it. And my favorite, let's see if I can find it. Whenever the Two of Pentacles comes up and he's looking for the literal Two of Pentacles, he sees this as an even exchange. So this is going this way, this is coming this way, and this one, it's about the deal that Faust made with the devil, and it's an even exchange. They're each getting the same thing, You know, in that particular deal, obviously it's different. It's, you know, a soul and gold, but you're each getting something and you're handing it over, but it's some things of equal quality, which is a really fascinating look at the Two of Pentacles in a way that I definitely never would have before. I never would have seen the Two of Pentacles, you know, as even exchange. Let's see if we can get... I can't remember exactly which deck this is, but he talks about exactly which ones he used in the back. And in that note also, he talks about how he had intended, when he was writing the book, to keep going, that there was a third part. And he was trying to figure out what a contemporary equivalent as a portrayal of collective unconscious mind would be now. Because we're looking at, tarot cards are from the, you know, 1400s. And we're talking about, you know, what would be the equivalent of tarot cards now. And he thought comic strips. And he thought of complementing the Tavern of Cross Destinies and the Castle with Cross Destinies with the Motel of Cross Destinies, with people who would point at pictures from comic strips. And that was incredibly fascinating. Yes, sorry, mine's a library copy. And it made me think a lot about, if you have not watched Tom Benjamin's I Believe in Tarot, he really talks about it being a game, and the idea that that's okay and that's a good thing, and that you can find meaning in anything. Tarot cards were just playing cards, and we've found and created all of this meaning in those cards in a way that's incredible and fascinating. Obviously, there's so many of us on YouTube that are making videos about it. Clearly, we're all fascinated. And I just think that it's really amazing that he really took that view of taking away everything we assume to know and just focusing on literally what are they. And this whole idea of you can do this with anything. So I really think that the majority of the value in the book was truly in that note in the end. So it was a really unique view that I had not heard before. I will be honest and say that I enjoyed the castle stories in the beginning much more than the tavern stories. I felt like the way that he laid the tarot cards out made a little more sense in the castle stories, as opposed to kind of a scramble in the end that made the tavern stories a little more confusing. And the castle stories really seemed a little bit more like kind of fairy tale-y, I guess. That's not really an adjective, but we'll pretend that it is. Whereas the tavern got a little more like fable morality, kind of. So not exactly my favorite. But I really enjoyed the read. If you have not found anything or read any fiction that is, you know, that revolves around tarot like this, give it a go. And if you know of any other fiction tarot books like this, please leave some below in the comments. I would love to read more. So that is my review of the Castle of Cross Destinies. Thanks for watching.